So, how did your testing week go this week?
It went surprisingly really well. Granted, with COVID being down and only being back in the gym for 6 weeks and previously had been peaking for a meet, I was surprised with how strong I still am. So that was
Yeah.
okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So, what kind of things did you do then over that time when the gym was closed? Did you do anything to try to like maintain your strength or?
Yeah, I mean, for what I could do,
Yeah.
it was nice time to be able to recover though, because my body really needed it. But I speculated that gyms were going to close down. Like before they even closed down, I told Sam, which is my boyfriend, like,
Hmm.
hey, look, the gym's gonna close in the next 2 weeks. And he's like, no, it's not. And I'm like, no, it's going to. So I got a pull-up bar, I got dumbbells, and then later on, I got resistance bands, but they didn't really come in time. So I had 15-pound dumbbells, which were enough for upper body
Yeah.
being a female, so I was able to keep most of my upper body strength. And then for lower body, I did the best that I could. Just playing around with rep ranges, slowing stuff down,
Yeah.
like a lot of single leg stuff. So I just did the best that I could during that time.
Yeah. Yeah. I wasn't really expecting them to close down. Um, I guess until like once the NBA canceled their season
Yeah.
for that time period, then I was like, okay, this is probably going to happen. But I didn't really prepare. Luckily, at my in-laws apartments, they have a big garage in the back, and they have like a barbell back there around like 300 pounds ish of
Wow.
plates. And then I had my own dumbbells up to about I think like 45 pounds. They're like adjustable ones, so you can take off plates and put them on. um, so I had like a decent amount of stuff for sure. I probably had more than most people. I had some resistance bands too, but it definitely was a challenge not really being able to squat.
Yeah.
um, that was kind of the biggest thing. Like I was able to floor press and I was able to do like lighter deadlifts, but like squatting was a challenge. We like stacked up buckets on top of each other to try to make like a squat rack,
Oh,
which,
that's funny.
which was super sketchy, like racking
Yeah.
it and unracking it. Um, and we only did that for like the first few weeks or so. Um, but yeah, it was, you had to get really creative with your movements and slowing things down, definitely. Um, so you said you were prepping for a meet before?
Yeah, I was supposed to be going to the Ohio State meet, so the really big one. It was supposed to be my first meet, and I was going to be pretty competitive. And I mean,
Hmm.
not like, I mean, that's a huge meet in Ohio, is like a mecca of big powerlifters. So I was going to be competitive for me, and I was really excited for it. And then, of course, it got canceled. But I was
Yeah.
I was grateful it got canceled because I was on the verge of injuring myself, like
Oh,
really
geez.
badly. I had really bad sciatica and then that hip impingement. So like it was, I think, 3 weeks out, and I couldn't deadlift or squat without like excruciating pain. So,
Oh my God.
so
Maybe
I
it,
was thankful. I was very thankful.
yeah. Maybe it was a blessing in disguise that it got canceled then. So, what federation was that?
I'm so since I'm like relatively new in powerlifting, I'm so bad with the federations, but it was USAPL and
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, I've competed a few times, but never in USAPL.
yeah.
Um,
Oh, what do you?
I've done IPA, which is like a really random federation. It's not super popular. And then I did USPA
Hmm.
twice. Um, but I've never done USAPL. I've thought about it, but I don't know. I haven't competed in so long just because it is like, if I want to compete, I want to be able to put like all of my focus into it. And it's kind of expensive to do it, especially if you have to travel a little bit. So just with school and the internship, it's just been, you know, the extra money to go and do it. I just haven't felt like it's been worth it right now. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, my only thing is I feel like if I don't have a date in mind or that I have the notion that I'm going to compete, I won't take it as seriously as I would like to. But then on the flip side, I almost take it too seriously. Like the competitor in me is like, I have to put more weight on every week, and then that's where my body is not very happy with me. So
yeah.
finding that balance is hard.
Yeah, definitely. So welcome everyone back to the Thrive by Nutrition podcast. I'm super excited to have Kelsey, and oh my gosh, wish I would have asked this before, how to pronounce your last name. Is it O'Hara?
No, it's so the last name is super random. We've looked into where it came from and no one really knows. If you Google origin of Hojara, they're like, oh, we don't know. It just kind of popped up. There's, I think, only like 140 or something. There might be less or more than that. But there aren't very many people in the United
Mm-hmm.
States with the last name Hojara, and they almost all reside in Florida, Michigan, and Indiana. So, but it's Hojara. That's how I pronounce it.
Hojara, okay.
Hojara, yeah. So, no one knows. It's not common.
Yeah, I felt like an idiot because I was going to ask you this before I hit record to start recording the podcast. And then once I started, I was like, damn it. But yeah, so Kelsey Hojara,
Yeah.
super excited to have her on. We've been kind of social media friends for a little bit now, message back and forth. I really love all of the information and content she puts out. And we're going to talk about this during the podcast, but I really like how I guess her approach to lifting and approach to training, it's definitely a little different than what most females might think they need to do in order to, see results in the gym. So I'm definitely excited to talk about that. But I'm going to kind of give the floor to her to just give a brief kind of background on kind of her journey getting into the nutrition and fitness realm, because she is a registered dietitian and nutrition coach online. So I'm going to stop rambling now and let her kind of take the floor.
Well, thank you so much for the introduction. I'm super happy to be here as well. My fitness and nutrition journey, I feel like, has been forever. I am relatively young. I'm 24 years old. And I feel like I've almost already been in this journey for a decade. So it's been quite a long time. So it really started when I was in high school. I played sports my whole life, and then had quit sports. And like many people at that point, when you're not playing sports anymore, it's like, what am I doing? You start gaining weight, and it actually stemmed from my dad made a comment, which, other women listening to this, I know we can all attest to. Men just don't make comments about women's bodies. Even we understand you're naive, but just don't do it. But my dad made a comment that he was joking. He's like, "Oh, Kelsey's got a belly on her. Looks like she could be pregnant." Ha ha. And it like, I had already been self-conscious, I guess you could say, at that point, because I was working at restaurants now that I was in school. I was taking advantage of that 50% off of meals. So had started gaining weight, and I got that comment. It really stemmed okay, I need to do something. I took it in a positive manner, where I know a lot of people that aren't as educated can take it into a not positive route, and that lead to some not so great things happening. But I took it in a more positive route, kind of. That's a long story that I'll get into a little bit briefly. But I ended up just right after that, I saw my friend had this amazing transformation. It was like a side by side. I was like, okay, that's what I want. So I reached out to him, and I very early on ended up getting into a very restrictive diet. I was doing Herbalife, 2 protein shakes a day, 2 fat burner shakes a day, only eating protein and veggies for dinner.
Yeah.
Went down that rabbit hole, but that also sparked my interest in nutrition and sparked my interest in fitness. So I remember showing this guy a picture, and I was like, I want to look like this girl. And he looked at me and he's like, you want to look like her? And I said, yeah. And he's like, all right, you have a few years of lifting weights. And I was like, okay, if that's what I have to do, I'll start doing it. And of course, that's not the reason why I think people should get into lifting weights, but it is what got me into it, and I'm in a great place now. That really sparked it. So I started lifting weights, started doing restrictive diets, fell off the wagon many times with my nutrition. I remember with that particular diet, incredibly restrictive. Please, anyone listening to this, do not go up and do that. But I had lost weight, and then my birthday rolled around. I went on a week-long bender, and then I was like, I failed everything, and had that I quit mentality. But I never fully gave up. So then ended up going to school initially for exercise science, switched over to dietetics, and I'm still lifting weights during this time, not really doing anything correctly, you know, as most people do. I don't really know what I'm doing at that point, but I'm still lifting weights, struggling with my diet, kind of going back and forth with this fad, doing just random things, drinking a lot in college, I'm not going to lie there. And then I met my boyfriend, and he really definitely set me on the right path with lifting, and got me into a bulk. So for the first time in my whole life, I was like, okay, I'm finally gonna focus on putting on muscle. Yeah, like the whole time it had been, I lift weights to get skinny. It was never, even though I showed this picture of this girl who had great muscle mass, in my head, I was still fighting that notion of, as a woman, we want to be smaller. And, you know, it's hard to want to put on weight as a female. So Sam really educated me on the fact that I needed to gain weight. I'm not going to say I gained it in the proper way, but I did start, that was the when I started lifting pretty heavy. And that was, I don't know if we've been together almost 4 years. So,
Okay. Wow.
yeah, it's been quite some time. So I started lifting heavier then, but wasn't necessarily powerlifting, and then went into a quote unquote fat bulk, gained a lot of weight. It was my heaviest ever, really unhappy, really struggling diet wise. And then everything just kind of clicked for me eventually with diet, after becoming a registered dietitian, doing a lot more research, figured out that area, and then, you know, eventually started powerlifting. So that was really all over the place, I feel like, but that it's been a very long 8-9 year journey.
Yeah. No, there were so many like really good things that I feel like you included in there. One of the biggest things that really stuck out was how, you know, you said you wanted to look like this person or have this kind of physique, and then the person told you, okay, you have like a few years of lifting ahead of you. And I think so many people think that they can just hire a coach or get into like paying attention to their diet and training and think that they can achieve these bodies or physiques that they see on like Sports Illustrated covers in just 2 or 3 months when they've never really been training before that. Like it takes so much time to build up that physique and build up that muscle mass that those people have. And I think a lot of people just don't really realize that. They think that if they just cut away fat, then they're automatically going to have that muscle mass underneath without actually building it. Like you said you started to go in kind of a bulk to build muscle. And it's tough because I understand for anyone, especially females, when most people kind of make females feel like they should be smaller, it's harder to like convince them that, okay, you're probably going to see the scale go up. You're probably going to have to start eating more food, but this over a long period of time is going to be what's going to get you to where you want to be, I guess.
It's so crazy because I had lifted weights for about 4 years before I started lifting actually heavy and went into that bulk.
Yeah.
You would have had no idea that I had lifted weights for 4 years. I don't, like, looking like progress wise, I barely made any progress in those 4 years because I didn't realize the fundamentals of, for this body I want, I need to put on muscle, and for that I need to eat food to gain that muscle. So that's stuff that as women, like, we don't know these things, and it's sad.
Yeah. And even like, I will say some guys have that problem too. Like I know I even had that problem when I, let's say it was like freshman year of college-ish. I was overweight and I lost a bunch of weight. And I was like 195 when I started, and I got down to like 155, I think was the lowest. So I got pretty small, and then I just started lifting, but I still was restricting my food intake. And I probably did that for a year and a half. And I feel like I really didn't make any progress until I decided, okay, it's time to actually up the calories, up the protein, and, you know, try to slowly put on weight. And it just makes such a huge difference with your physique. And I think a lot of people fear, like, just because they gain weight or eat more, like they're going to start gaining weight in areas that they don't really want to. But if you do it, you know, at the right pace and you have a good training program behind it, like even if you gain weight and gain size as a female, you're probably going to gain weight and size in the areas that you kind of want to, and areas that will actually make your shape, I guess, look a little smaller in some
Yes, 100%.
circumstances, like, getting your shoulders or your back just a little wider, and your waist staying the same, it makes your waist actually look smaller. Same thing with, your glutes and things like that. So um, I think that's so important to just kind of make it more normal for females to consciously and purposely slowly try to put on weight if their goal is to, change their physique.
Yeah, and something that I think is, very neglected upon is if you're like, let's say you only need to lose like 10 pounds of weight as a female and you're new to getting into the gym. I had a client that came to me like, hey, look, like I would really like to lose fat.
Mm-hmm.
I have never trained in the gym before. And I was like, let's maintain, get you training really hard. You're gonna get those newbie gains, right? Which
Yes.
I never took advantage of because I mean, we were restricting
Yeah.
during the point that we started lifting weights. So you never take full advantage of the fact that when you're new to lifting weights, you can literally gain muscle and lose body fat at the same time as long as you're in a close to maintenance. Even if you're losing, you can, but it's not as optimal. So if you can really take advantage of that first year where you're primed to build that physique, lose fat while putting on muscle at maintenance, like do it. She had the best transformation ever and her weight stayed the same.
Yeah. No, I love that you said that, because that is probably my biggest regret when it comes to
Yeah.
all this nutrition and fitness thing, is not taking advantage of those first 2 to 3 years or so of lifting, and at least eating at maintenance for all of that time period. Like,
I agree.
you'll be amazed like how much more muscle you can build in your first year of lifting when you're actually eating at maintenance, or maybe even a slight calorie surplus, versus if you're, trying to be in a calorie deficit the whole entire time.
Yeah, so when I first was unhappy with my body back in high school, so I'm 5'7", just for reference, and back then I weighed around 130, I think 135 pounds now, if I'm being honest, 135, 138. And now I love my physique and I sit naturally around 145 pounds. So it just makes me wonder if back then, if I wouldn't have initially started restricting and I would have started lifting and maintaining my weight, I would have gotten to this place I'm at now so much sooner instead of it taking me 8 very long years to get to this
Yeah.
point. So it's just something that's really important, I think, for a lot of women getting into the gym initially. Just focus on getting your protein in, eating carbs are fine, and just really training hard.
Yeah, it's sad like how much slower progress gets as you go on. Like the first year, if you're have your nutrition spot on, you're eating enough calories, eating enough protein, like you could probably put on, for males, close to like a pound of muscle a month. Like 12 pounds of muscle for the first year is amazing results. And then for females, maybe even half of that, 5 pounds, or 5 to 10-ish pounds in the first year. Like that's a really great progress. And I think people underestimate how much just 5 to 10 pounds of muscle is. And then as you go on, like once you've been lifting for 10 years, it's like, if you can put on like 4 pounds of solid muscle in a year, like that's a lot of muscle to put on. Which kind of brings me to the next topic I kind of wanted to talk about, because I know this is one reason why I really love kind of like a powerlifting and bodybuilding hybrid style training, is because progress visually takes such a long time once you've been lifting for so long, especially building muscle. And I think having kind of powerlifting mixed in there just gives you more motivation to go in the gym, because it's easier to see like a 5 pounds more on your 1 rep max after a few months than it is to actually see like a couple pounds of muscle on your body in like almost a year or 6 months. So I wanted to talk about how Kelsey kind of got into the more heavier strength training, powerlifting style training, because a lot of females, unfortunately, think that if they're going to lift heavy, they won't get the results they want. But I'm going to let kind of Kelsey talk about how she got into that.
Yeah, so I just want to piggyback off of what you were just saying. That it's totally not the case. um, Yeah, so I got into powerlifting. So like I mentioned earlier, Sam really got me into lifting heavy, and that's when I started to squat, bench, and not even bench. I would squat and deadlift because I really enjoyed those movements. And they were just something that I would start, throwing into my workout programs. I would just start squatting, start deadlifting, and as my strength went up, it was exciting. Just feeling stronger. You just feel like such a badass. And getting to that point where you have a lot of weight on your back, and it's almost like an adrenaline rush, right? Like, am I gonna fail? Like, it's exciting, and it's exciting to know that in weeks to come you're going to be able to do more than that. So it's just something that's very exciting and like adrenaline rush almost for me. And coming from a background of playing sports, it gives me that outlet that I was missing before. I get very bored of just bodybuilding and just doing the same. I mean, I do the same thing in my workouts each week, but I'm focusing on getting stronger rather than just how I look. I don't even remember what I was going to piggyback off of you, but what I was going to say is the moment that I switched to doing powerlifting, so I ended up doing that bulk that I mentioned, that fat bulk, wasn't happy, eventually went on a cut. Well, actually, I went keto. That dropped my strength.
Oh, geez.
That was a really bad idea. This was a few years back. So then after then, I started bulking again a little bit. And then I went through a smarter cut. I was still doing higher carbs, lots of protein, all of that stuff. But I cut for quite a long period of time because I still had a lot of weight to lose. I was at the heaviest I'd been at that point, starting that cut. So I've lost a lot of my strength and really wanted to focus rather on how I look, on getting stronger. And once I did that cut, that was, like I said, significantly too long. I did take breaks in between of it. But I got down to this physique, I got down to this weight that I wanted, and I still didn't like the size of muscle I had. I thought I would look larger. I thought I would look more full, and have this, tone that I was looking for, as, people like to call it. And I didn't. So I was like, well, I guess I got to put on more muscle and focus on being strong. And rather than just focusing on putting muscle, I was like, if I have something else to dictate my progress, like strength wise, that would be a much better motivator than just seeing the scale go up and having to deal with that. So now I focus on being strong. And since I have been doing more powerlifting with bodybuilding thrown in there, like accessories and so on and so forth, since doing that style of training, it's been about a year now, my physique has improved in that year. I just can't even put into words how much. Like, I finally have that figure that I'm looking for, and I got it through lifting very heavy stuff, really pushing myself in the gym, really fueling my body. And yeah, so that's the end of that rant.
Yeah, no, that's super cool. I think one of the biggest things that comes with switching to, or maybe not even like fully switching, but just incorporating a little more like powerlifting focus, or at least more strength focus, where your focus going in is more like executing a lift and increasing your number over the period of time, instead of doing so many reps and then gauging it by how you look. I think incorporating some of that powerlifting in there really helps to shift your mindset away from obsessing over how much you look all the time, and more taking pride at what your body can actually do. Like you said, that kind of adrenaline rush you get putting heavy weight on your back, and going down to do a rep and thinking like, am I going to get back up? Like, who knows? We'll find out. But, and then even like once you get to a certain level of strength, like it's one of the coolest things to, like, not to sound egotistical, but to put on kind of a lot of weight, especially for like your body size and everything, and have other people in the gym kind of looking at you like, wow, this person is pretty strong. Like it took a lot of work to get there. Like that feels good, to do that. And just kind of know sometimes, like when you're going for a max, you have kind of eyes watching you. And same thing goes for like having good form. Having good form, like I really take pride in my form, and I really want, like, when I'm doing a lift, everyone to kind of look at me and think like this person has really good form. But um, going back to kind of the like maxing out and putting heavy weight on there, like it's, I don't know, it's just a different feeling. Like you get the adrenaline pumping, and you just, it's like, it's not life or death, but you just, I don't know, I just love it. I love having that mixed in there. um and I would love to see more females, like maybe you don't have to go for a 1 rep max, but at least incorporate kind of more heaviest style training, because being able to like get stronger, it gives you more potential to actually build more muscle because you're stronger, and then you can use more weight, and you have more confidence to use more weight on your other lifts that you do in maybe the higher rep range, which then kind of leads to more muscle growth over time.
Well, I think what's funny is when, and I don't only work with women, but everyone in my program is a woman. But it's just funny because, and relating back to me, as a female, when I used to work out in the past, we see those, I call them foofy, but the foofy swipe videos nowadays, which is
Yeah.
like the silliest stuff. And I actually didn't start squatting until probably 3 years, I think 2, 3 years into lifting. So I think if people just put a bigger emphasis on doing compound movements at the beginning of each of their workouts, and just to give some people background, like if you're doing a leg day, starting off with a squat or a deadlift, and if you're doing an upper body day, starting off with either like assisted pull-ups or doing some sort of a bench movement, those should be your main focuses of the workout. Then from there, you go to some of the accessory stuff, is what they be called,
Hmm.
and the more like, targeting one area. But doing those big movements, that's what's going to get you the most bang for your buck. And women are afraid to do that initially on. So just really gaining that confidence in the gym that you can do this, you can do what the
Yeah.
men are doing, and you're not going to get bulky from doing these compound movements.
Yeah, yeah, that's so funny you said that, because I didn't start squatting until um, probably like my sophomore yearish of college, when I started to kind of up
Yeah.
my food intake. So, um, and that's when like my progress really kicked off too, is actually squatting, doing heavy deadlifts. Before, on leg days, I would only do machines. I would only go in there and do leg press, do um, leg extension, leg curls, calf raises. Like I would only literally do the machines before that. And um, what people like, I think, don't think about too, is like those movements, they help you build the most muscle, because you're going to recruit a lot more muscle fibers to do those compound movements. So you're, like you said, you're getting more bang for your buck in terms of muscle growth. And then you're also, I mean, I don't like to preach going into the gym to burn calories, because you don't really burn that many calories going to the gym. Most people don't. But you do burn more calories doing like a set of 10 on squats heavy versus a set of 10 of leg extensions or something. Like you're going to burn more calories, which, like I said, I don't like to preach that to like go to the gym to lose weight and burn calories, but you're going to be able to just enjoy more food, and, even just maintain your weight on more food, which, I mean,
Who
who
doesn't
doesn't
want
love
that?
eating food? Like,
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely completely agree with that statement. It's not about getting to eat more food necessarily in that sense. Like, you don't want to go to the gym to burn calories to be able to eat more,
yeah,
but it is nice to have more muscle mass to be able to fuel that muscle so that you get to eat more.
yeah. And
I love food. I'm a big foodie too.
yeah, and that confidence that you get from building strength and getting stronger in these compound lifts, it really transitions to like everyday things too. Like you're around people, and maybe you're helping them move something. You could pick up a heavy box easier. You can, I don't know, carry in all the groceries in one trip or something. Like those types of things, when you're able to do that, especially like when you're with people who might underestimate you because you're a female, or maybe they just don't work out as much, so they aren't able to do that. When you're able to kind of not show them up, but just you have a higher ability to do those types of things than you did 5 years ago because you've been strength training for so long. Like it just helps to boost your confidence in the gym, obviously, but even outside of the gym, doing those daily activities.
So, I mean, something else is that my family is highly competitive, and this was a very cool moment and something that I wouldn't necessarily recommend for other people because it's not necessarily safe. So, if you go into this, do it at your own risk. But me and my sister, we had a few drinks, and I had been prepping for this powerlifting meet, so I'm pretty dang strong at this point, and she was getting cocky with me and was like, I bet I can squat you. And I was like, okay, do it then. And so she throws me on her back. Well, she can't squat me. And then I was like, well, I bet I could squat you. And so got her on my back and squatted her a couple times. So you were talking about just gaining confidence in everyday things. So that was a pretty cool moment to just be like, pop this. Got you.
Yeah, right. I mean, like you want to be strong because you never know when you're gonna have a couple of drinks and you're gonna have to squat your sister.
Yeah.
Like
you never know.
You never know when you're gonna have to do that. So, just another benefit to strength training, obviously. Um, so, what kind of like did you have any like fears or insecurities like when you started kind of lifting heavier, going to the gym? Like, did you think people were looking at you differently or looking at you weird or?
I've no, nothing like that. I mean, definitely first going into the gym, there's always that struggle. But since I had been lifting for so long, without lifting heavy, I at least was confident in being in the gym. But really, I think the scariest part is like worrying about not injuring yourself. Is I would say now like the scariest thing with that. And I would say the biggest thing obviously is going to be your form. When I started lifting heavy, this would have been like 3 years ago, my form sucked. And so please don't start lifting heavy if your form sucks, because that led to me throwing out my back at one point. It wasn't anything super crazy, but and I also wasn't focusing on recovery back then. I also wasn't eating properly, so I also had higher stress levels because I was in college. So all of those things coupled together led me to being pretty injury prone. And so I guess that now is like the bigger fear, but I know now because I'm educated enough that if I eat well, sleep well, my stress levels are fine, I'm taking care of my mobility and I'm stretching, recovering, that I'm not going to injure myself. So that I would say that would be the scarier part now, and back then as well.
Yeah. Do you remember like when you said you first started squatting? Like what was the weight that you used on the bar? Like your very first time actual squatting?
Oh wow, the bar.
The bar.
Bar. Yeah, I was really nervous back then. I did not have good mobility. I don't come from a family that has good mobility at all, and I never took care of stretching or anything like that. So my ankle mobility was really bad, and my balance was really bad back then. So this would have been like 5 years ago. And I was afraid to even put a bar on my back because I thought I would fall. So that was a really scary thing, I guess, early on.
Yeah.
But all I needed was someone, and this is what happened. I took a weightlifting class freshman year of college, and she was like, okay, just pretend like you're sitting down. And I think she had me sit down on a box, like with the bar, and she's right behind me. She's like, okay, now sit up. And then I was like, that's it. That's all I have to do. And so that helped me really gain a lot of confidence in the movement itself.
Yeah. Yeah. So you said you started with the bar. So where are you at now? Like what's your max or what's close to your max?
So the most I've ever squatted was an easy 270, like super easy single. So for my meet, my goal was to squat at least 300. So I was on range for that. I think I could have had the 300-pound 1 rep max. But with COVID and everything, I've lost a little bit of strength, but I just hit 242 for 3, which I was
Wow.
super impressed with, with everything going on. So.
Yeah, no, that's super impressive because I mean, I know you mentioned, I think earlier in the podcast that you were around like 140-ish. So like that's a double your body weight, almost double your body weight, or even a little more than that. Like,
You're right. I didn't think
wow.
about that.
Which is like crazy impressive. Like that's impressive for anybody, whether you're a female, male, double your body weight squat. Like that's super, super impressive. That takes a lot of time to get there. And you said you started with the bar. And like, I just wanted to emphasize that because some females or women or even men, like they go in there and they have to start with the bar. They have to start with the bar and maybe like a 10 on each side. And they just feel like they don't feel confident because they're not using a lot of weight. But if you use that low of weight with good form, eventually, in a year, 2 years, 3 years, like you could be squatting double your body weight. And that's just a really cool thing to be able to do and to be able to say, in my opinion, at least. But I kind of had the same issues with mobility and stuff too. When I first started squatting, I was not squatting like close to depth at all, powerlifting depth. And I think like the most I did when I maxed out was like 205, which that was like a quarter squat. It wasn't even like a full squat when I did that.
Mm-hmm.
So then I ended up backing it up, and I actually had to start on a Smith machine because I wasn't comfortable going all the way down with the bar and not losing my balance and falling over. Like
I did the same exact thing.
yeah. I started with the Smith machine. I felt really, honestly, I felt self-conscious, like in the gym with other guys, at the campus gym at University of Toledo. And like some guys are in there squatting 300 pounds, like to depth for like set to 10. And I'm over here on the Smith machine with maybe like a 25 on each side, just trying to go low enough without falling over. But, you invest those kind of difficult times over and over and over, and then eventually you can get to that point.
Yeah, that's so funny you say that, because I didn't know back then, like the stigma with the Smith machine, like, oh, the Smith machine. And now, like that you say that, I'm like, well, I had to start somewhere. You had to start somewhere. So there's no shame in having to start with a Smith. If that's going to get you confident in your squat and your form and get you confident enough to get under a barbell, then do that. Everyone's different, and not everyone has someone there to guide them. And I had that one person that was, I was in a class with, but after that, I didn't have a coach. I didn't have anyone to guide me on how to get my squat up. So it was really just me gaining that confidence.
Yeah.
My abilities.
Yeah. Yeah. And I want to kind of clarify, like, I don't want people to think that I'm hating on the Smith machine or anything, but when my goal was to actually barbell squat like a powerlifter, I felt kind of bad because I had to do something else. Like I wasn't able to do that,
Well, a lot of people do shame the Smith machine, though.
Yeah, people do.
Yeah.
But I think the Smith machine, especially for muscle growth, like it's great. Honestly, I think like in terms of powerlifting, obviously you can't do powerlifting lifts on a Smith machine because you don't compete that way. But like there's no shame in using a Smith machine. You can tear your quads apart doing squats on a Smith machine.
That's what I was just thinking. Yeah, like because you can mess with your stance so that you're like driving your knees in certain places.
Yeah,
you can't do that under a barbell.
Yeah, and if you're doing like barbell split squats or barbell like lunges in place, I think a Smith machine is honestly probably better for that, just because you just don't have to worry about trying to balance the bar as much. You can actually focus more on actually hitting your quads if that's the goal of the lift, is to hit your quads, instead of so much on stability. Use your big compound movements like a barbell squat to kind of work your stability in that, and then go into the Smith machine like lunges in place or something to really hammer in the actual muscle group after. So
yeah, I might need to start incorporating some more Smith machine stuff after this talk.
Yeah, our gym doesn't even have a Smith machine now that I think about it, but
yeah.
Oh,
wow. Ours does, but I don't think I've used one in quite a long time. So that's okay.
Yeah. So you said your meet got canceled. So do you have plans, like a certain date of when you plan to do another meet, or are you just kind of training, going with the flow until all this stuff kind of fades out hopefully soon, and then it's more of a possibility to do a meet?
I am thinking that I'd like to do a meet January, February time frame of next year. So that gives me plenty of time to get my strength back up. I'm a very ambitious person. If I do something, I'm like, I want to be good at it. Gonna be good at it. So I would like to get to a point where I'm qualified for nationals and That, meet last year would have been but this year would have been my first meet ever. And my numbers wouldn't have qualified me for nationals, but were pretty dang good. I'm hoping that if I compete 2021, maybe not at that first meet, but sometime in 2021, that I could qualify for nationals. If not then 2022 for sure.
Yeah. So you said your max was around like 300-ish. Maybe it's closer to like 280-ish or so now on squat. Like, what do your bench and deadlift numbers look like?
My bench is awful. Like, how I had mentioned that like 3-4 years ago I started heavy lifting, but I wasn't benching. Well, I wish I would have. So my bench, I was back then I was going to hopefully hit 135. I know that's like a huge goal, having like one
Yeah.
large plate in each side. I just hit 105 for 3, which is not super impressive at all. So bench is a lot of work to do.
No, I don't think you should feel bad about 105 for 3 at all. I mean, that's especially for, females, they just usually have like less upper body strength. I mean, you're probably close to 135, which is super impressive. So,
Yeah, so I really need to get my bench up though. That's what's holding me back. My legs are really strong, so my deadlift, the best I had ever done was 308 for 3. It was either 2 or 3. So, one of I'd have to look back at my spreadsheet. So, I don't know what that would have been pulling in, but that would have been pretty good.
yeah.
I think like somewhere around like 340, 350 maybe.
Yeah. Probably close to there. So that's super impressive too.
But now I pulled 264 for 3.
Okay.
Yeah, so it'll shoot back up though. Like I said, my deadlift and squat are pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah. And a lot of that strength decrease, like, probably isn't necessarily just strength. It's just kind of learning the movement again after having so much time off.
Yeah, it was really weird doing my maxes because I had been back in the gym for about 5 weeks, and I hadn't gotten close up to that amount yet. Like for deadlifts, I had been doing, I think 220 was the highest I had gone until then. And for squats, also, hit 220, but it was box squat. So it was just weird for like CNS wise, just having that weight
Yeah.
on again. And it actually surprisingly felt very good. I was like,
Yeah.
wow,
That's awesome.
I feel so heavy.
Yeah.
So,
Sometimes like just not having that certain weight on your back, it just like shocks your body. Like it's just not used to what that feels like, and can just throw things off. But yeah, don't feel bad about the whole bench thing. Like my bench is definitely my weakest lift out of all of the 3 too.
your
And
bench is crazy though, didn't you? Yeah. Well, I mean, in relative respect. I
yeah,
saw
I mean,
your bench video the other day, and I was like, wow, that's impressive.
well, I mean, the most I've done was 265 paused, and like I'm probably close to like 270, maybe 275 now. But like there are guys my weight, like at the top of the weight class, and they're benching like 400, which is just insane to
So that's
me.
a lot.
But like I was blessed with long arms for deadlift, but it's kind of a disadvantage for bench. So
Same.
gotta take what my genetics gave me, I guess. But so I don't want to take up too much of your time, but like what's like 1 or 2 pieces of advice you'd really give to women who are thinking about starting to get into more like powerlifting or at least heavy lifting training, but they're kind of afraid to start or don't really know where to start?
So the first thing that I would say is if you're wanting to get into this style of training and you really want to take it seriously, even if you don't want to take it seriously, okay, like if you're just toying around with it, just get a program, because invest the money into either having a coach that's going to write you a program that can also help you with your form is big, or just even just getting a program that's laid out, because it takes that pressure away from you of just what am I going to go and do at the gym, and you trying to come up with things on your own. Maybe you're not as confident in coming up with your own workouts. So that's a big thing. I think, really just investing a little bit of money into, like I said, a coach or even just a program if you just want something more simple. And then also I would say work on your form. Your form is way more important early on than the amount of weight you're actually moving. Because if you can't get into that right squat position, then the more weight you start putting onto your back in that not proper position, you're going to end up injuring yourself. So really, I would say take time to watch some YouTube videos. As a female, Meg Squats is really great. So just, shout out to her, and just really work on making sure you can get in those positions before adding on a bunch of weight. And especially for squat, bench, and deadlift, like just make sure your form's good before you start doing anything too crazy weight wise, and just learn to love the process of improving your form and getting into a better position. Feeling your body move better is a great indicator, and then from there learn to love the process of getting super strong.
Yeah, no, super important guidance. And it's a marathon, not a sprint, and you can't keep going on that marathon if you're getting hurt because your form's off. So but thank you so much for coming on here again, Kelsey. I'd love to have you on in the future too and talk more, because I feel like we could just go on and on about this lifting stuff and nutrition and everything. So like I said, so give them, like, where can they find you? Do you have like a website, Facebook groups, Instagram? Like, where can the audience find you if they want to kind of follow your stuff?
Yeah, thanks so much. So I am primarily on Facebook and Instagram. It's just my name, Kelsey Hojara. So I know everyone's probably listening to this. So it's KelseyHojara. And then from there, I have a one-on-one coaching program where I work with women primarily. Men, you're out there too. I don't discriminate. As long as we I can't speak right now. We get along well. You could totally join the program. But I have that. And then I also have a free Facebook community for people that want to learn more information, get more recipe ideas, just get that motivation. It's called Kelsey's Coaching Community. This is a really long name. It's Kelsey's Coaching Community, Fat Loss, Health, and Fitness for Women. So if anyone wants to join that, again, I don't discriminate against men. You can totally join the group. But that's primarily where you can find me.
Cool. Well, thank you so much, Kelsey. I'm sure I'll have you on again. And for the audience, I'll see you in the next one.